Oh, hello there. Yes, well, good grief. So close to the end of the year, aren't we? And it's that time of year when we get all of those retrospectives. Yes, various roundups of the best cinema and the best TV and the best album and the best political moments and, of course, the best research from the Adam Smith Institute. Yes, they posted yesterday on Twitter about all the great things they've been doing, so I thought it would be worthwhile looking at some of their great ideas they've got for 2025. I'm sure they're going to be really good, but it certainly gives us an idea of direction of travel where nefarious capitalists with their pointy moustaches and very Steve what's that phrase, stovepipe hats, that's the one, are going to take us cackling as they throw the orphans out into the snow. Yeah, odd that we seem to have arrived back at that point one way or another. Anyway, let's have a look. Mass immigration has propped up the UK's low wage, low productivity economy. Tom Jones, no not him, and David Cowan suggest a selective immigration system to attract top global talent. Yeah, top talent. Yeah, top talent in this case, of course, is people that make up basically the 1% of the population who are big and important. Not you understand that. Which I think is very, very intriguing for, the Adam Smith Institute, who surely would be in favour of the free movement of labour. Surely that's something that Adam Smith would be keen on for his pin factory. But no, regulation's absolutely great if it's politically expedient. Such is the nature of the ideologues at the Adam Smith Institute, because after all, that means that they can blame everything bad that's happened for the last 40 years in terms of a low-wage economy on the nefarious migrants. But of course, they've been very, 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 very keen on a low-wage economy. One of the reasons why George Osborne was very keen, for example, on a low-wage economy was, well, he could suggest that magical growth which came from importing people from abroad was in fact economic growth. It wasn't, it was population growth. Still, never mind, we won't talk about that. I mean, Nigel Farage definitely won't talk about that because, of course, he enabled Boris Johnson, who magically saw that system in full effect over the, period that he was PM, and then other people did it as well. But anyway, it's all the migrants' fault. It can't possibly be the economic system that allowed these people to do this for the last 15 years. No, let's blame the brown people rather than the people who are basically in charge. Still, they pay the Adam Smith's staff's wages, so we can't do that. Moving on, Dr. Madison Peary, what a great name, took a step back from the cut and thrust of everyday politics to examine what a better Britain, capital B's, might look like if some of its problems were addressed by imaginative and long-term solutions. Yes, and you get some of them here. More Americanisation in schools, inevitably. They've been trying for years, if you think about charter schools, etc. in the States, to, produce more of an economy in education. It doesn't work if you're going to provide free state education. Just doesn't work. It's not a model that realistically people can do, not without doing it on a very, very cheap basis anyway, which is what the Americans are just about to definitely go into. Still, I'm sure that if we don't spend any money on education, it'll become a much, much better system, won't it? Won't it? After all, look at the UK and its degrees and all that money that people pay out for their degrees. It made it a much better... No, it didn't, did it? Anyway, let's not worry about that now. One of Kemi Badenoch's latest one is the flat rate of tax, which hasn't worked anywhere in the world and basically won't, because one of the things about what amounts to a poll tax is that historically people don't like it very much, and the peasants will tend to revolt at such things. Just a small hint there, okay? If you have flat rates of tax, it sounds very, very attractive. People like that idea because, of course, we're all perfectly equal, aren't we? I am equal to Elon Musk in the sense that I also have two arms, although I have a lot less of a reptilian frame than he does. Still, we're all equal according to the libertarians, and that's why that would work, except it doesn't work anywhere and everybody knows that it's unfair. But that's just me, well, with stuff that is real, I suppose. Moving on, new research revealed that the UK is set to lose the greatest proportion of millionaires in the world over this parliament, with the share of the population who are millionaires falling by 20% by 2028. And you might be saying to yourself, well, what's going to happen? Is there a millionaire plague, or are they all going to go abroad? Well, that's the idea, apparently. But the way that the Adam Smith counts these people is anyone that has a paper wealth of £1 million. Now, there's a lot of people in the UK that have a paper wealth of £1 million, because there are lots of houses in London, for example, that are worth well over £1 million. But those people aren't going to up sticks because the Labour Party have decided to put a marginal rate of tax up a bit, are they? Nobody's going to do that. It's farcical, absolutely laughable and farcical that 20% of the population, of that population, are going to go abroad, especially as we've ended free movement to Europe. So where are they going to go? Uruguay? Yeah, let's go there, because I'm a little bit unhappy about the idea with farmers and inheritance tax. It's not a thing. Patently, it's not a thing, is it? Moving on again, Michael Palmer and Maxwell Marlowe, come back to him, found that if, love that phrase, if the government enacts its plans to abolish non-dom tax status, this could cost the UK £6.5 billion by 2035 and 23,000 jobs by 2030. Now, 23,000 jobs by 2030, yes, in 5 years' time, is very, very few jobs. I'm sorry, but I cannot get afraid by that. Oh no, that must be like something like 5 jobs a month. Anyway, leaving all that aside, yes, notice this is once again this notion of the wealth of the country, which somehow I'm part of, okay? It's not their wealth, is it? Oh, God grief, no. We all share in it, don't we? We all share in the wealth. What's that thing where it, a bit like rain, it comes down in some fashion, doesn't it? Yes, of course. But a cursory glance, of course, at actual wealth in the UK will suggest that the vast majority of wealth gains that have been made since 2010, let's use that as a starting point, have gone to the top 10%. And in particular the top 1%, and in particular the top 0.5%, and in particular the top 0.1%. So I'm not quite sure who our is here, because it sure as hell isn't the poor like me. Yes, I'm not even going to go on to their ideas in and around deregulation, because their latest one is to suggest that companies should just basically ignore the law. Yes, because I can't think of any Thames Water reasons why Thames Water, that hasn't particularly Thames Water worked. Thames Water. I'd love just one of these people just one time to explain to me exactly how it is, if they can, without me falling on the ground laughing and potentially hurting myself on that basis, how that has worked. Yes. And their solution is, of course, that these companies should be allowed to do more of that. Yes, asset strip the country, because it makes a lot of money for the people that pay the Adam Smith Institute to write articles about asset stripping the country. I can't think why that might be the case. Can you? Yes, of course you can. Anyway, moving on, Peter Young showed that eliminating capital gains tax could increase our national income by 0.9% annually. Woo! That's equivalent to 25 billion. Woo! What's more, any lost revenue will be offset by increased economic growth, resulting in a higher tax take. Yeah, so we go back to that brilliant idea that if we tax people less, we'll get more money. Except there isn't a nominal rate at which that has worked, because back in the past, when the country was, the rich were very, very heavily taxed, we had vast amounts of growth. So that isn't a thing. But in Adam Smith world, of course it is, because we mustn't, whatever we do, take any money away from the people at the top, because they provide jobs. That's what they do. Without them, we'd all just sit around doing nothing. You remember the feudal times, all those, pictures you've seen of feudal peasants just sitting down doing no work. That's what they did for hundreds of years until the capitalists came along. It's the same with the Romans and their slaves. The slaves would just sit down and do nothing because capitalism hadn't provided them with jobs. Dreadful, dreadful, dreadful. It's amazing that we managed to get here, really. Thank God for the Industrial Revolution, mercantile and war capitalism. Yes, it's given me something to do at least. Moving on, the last bit. Recognising the need for reform, Maxwell Marlowe set out some alternatives to scrapping the nom-nom tax regime altogether. Quelle surprise. These include introducing a £150,000 flat tax for non-doms and offering incentives, money, for non-doms to invest in UK assets. Yes, indeed. See? The only reason why these people do things is because we give them money. And thankfully, we get all of that back to do the potholes and have the NHS and the schools at such a brilliant level because we give them loads of money. I love this flat rate of tax thing though, because think about what percentage it would be of a billionaire's money to pay £150,000 to the Exchequer. I think they should do something equivalent to me, okay? I'll give the Exchequer 1st of January, promise, okay, £9.50, okay, and I won't pay any more taxes on anything for the rest of the year, okay? Think about all of the wealth that I'll be investing in the UK in that case, and all of the jobs that I'll create. Yeah, you can see exactly how that's going to work so well for the wealth creators. But let's make everybody a wealth creator, shall we? You see, one of the ideas that I think is really sensible is give lots of money to the people at the bottom, because that does actually generate economic growth at the bottom. But the Adam Smith Institute isn't paid for by people at the bottom, so they're not going to suggest that, and instead they're going to come out with tosh research like this, which basically is paid for by the very rich. And they really hope that you'll all fall for it, which of course you will, because you are really stupid, aren't you? A bit like I am for merely questioning the free market. Anyway, that's where capitalism is going. Much more asset stripping. Hooray! So, enjoy it whilst you can, and remember, if it's not nailed down, they will sell it. Have a lovely start to the week.